Hello and welcome. My name is Mitch Sanders. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of Alere Health, and I'm also the Chair of the Communications Committee for the Wound Healing Society. I'm pleased to introduce you to the WHS 101 series, which is a series of educational videos to assist entrepreneurs in advanced wound care in developing their IP, grant writing, as well as designing clinical trials. And so this is the first of many in the series. Today we're going to focus on protecting your IP portfolio and covering some of the things you may not think about when you're filing a patent for the first time. So welcome, let's get started. So when you have a patent and you're in academia, you don't often think about the costs of a patent once you get to both the US and the kind of international phase of a patent. But a provisional patent can actually be quite a financial burden to either the academic institute or to a company. And the approximate cost for maintaining a patent family is approximately $250,000 to $400,000. More recent estimates are upwards of $500,000. Now, if you're only filing in the U.S., you may only be thinking about the U.S. fees, which is about $60,000. But of course, if you have a patent that may be linked to a pharmaceutical drug or a device, which you may want to be able to sell that product or license that product worldwide, you're going to need to pay annuity fees and country coverage for the countries that represent the markets that you want to go into. And so, it seems like a daunting fact that, once you have 100 patent families in a small company, the maintenance costs escalate dramatically and can escalate to 25 to 40 million a year. So it's really critical that when you think about writing a patent, you want to understand what your return on investment is going to be. How are you going to make money? Who's going to license your product or patent? And think about the costs. And as I say, in academia, the burden is on the tech transfer office to kind of prune the IP and make sure that it gets a return on investment. But if you're in a small company, that's your lifeblood. And so thinking about your portfolio and when to keep a patent and when not to, and which countries to go into become a very important factor in how you're going to get true value for your patents, as well as get a return for your investment. Now, the life cycle of a patent really starts with the idea and identifying and recording the innovation and probably an invention disclosure, not sharing it with anyone, getting enough data to then file a provisional patent. And that provisional patent, once you file that in the US, you have a year, just under a year, about a year, before you need to file for the international phase, what's called a PCT, or a Patent Cooperation Treaty examination of your IP. And once that's done, then you can start filing in different countries, and once it's allowed, you can utilize that patent for a licensing deal or what have you. And obviously it takes time to bring any product to commercialization, whether it's an advanced wound care dressing or even a novel stem cell therapy. And protecting your IP really goes through this life cycle of once you start using the patents and getting regulatory approval, you're able to start taking advantage of the commercialization of the product. And once you have the product on the market, it's all about enforcement and protecting your IP and adding more IP to prevent other ones from competing with you. And then, there comes a life of the patent. Usually it's the expiration date on the patent, or if it's not a very good patent or it's lost its usable life, you may want to consider disposing of the patent and stopping paying the annuity fees on a patent. And so the life of patent, as I say, is typically 20 years, but it really depends on the value. And those considerations are really important to making sure that your costs are in line with where you want to go with this portfolio. Now, I think there's key factors to determine the value of a patent, and I do a lot of IP portfolio due diligence for clients, both large and small, to help them better understand how they can protect their existing IP as well as develop new IP that's going to be sustainable. And so when I think of a patent, these are the kind of things, these 6 things that I think about in viewing and understanding the value proposition of a patent. So novel claims of a patent really is a measure of whether your claims get allowance. Did the patent examiner feel that what you developed was novel enough to give you that claim? And when you get claims back and they strike them out at the patent office, that means that they felt that there was existing IP or prior art that didn't allow you to get that claim. But so a patent that has about 18 claims or so, getting very nice broad claims but novel claims allowed is really important. And as I say, the novelty is one measure of value. The second measure of value of a patent is inventive step. The way to think about that is how proprietary is your claim such that other people can't go around your patents. And oftentimes in legal terms, we call that a freedom to operate opinion, or an FTO. And inventive step is really important to blocking potential competitors from trying to go around your patent. So that's a simple way to think about it. Now, the product class and the market potential are kind of external factors which relate to the patent value based on the market value or the market opportunity of the product that you're developing, whether it's a drug or a device. And the next important consideration is country coverage. If you're only going to sell in the US, you don't have to worry about worldwide patent exposure, and that will save you a lot of money. But oftentimes, for a wound care product, you want to have worldwide coverage, and you want to cover countries where you're going to be able to sell the product. And so, I always, for a wound care product, I always think about probably U.S., probably the 12 countries in Europe that have probably the most volume for wound care products, and then I think of Asian Pacific and China and other regions that you think where you're going to sell your product next. Now, lastly, it's really important before you write the patent to look at the competitive landscape, and not just the patents, but the specific claims, because those are really going to prevent you from getting patent allowance, as well as prevent you from having very broad IP that's going to give you a very strong freedom to operate. Okay? And so having a snapshot of the competitive landscape is really important. And sometimes we use very complex software programs to kind of analyze kind of the competitive landscape, claim sets, and even forward and reverse citations. Who's citing your patents? Who are you citing? And what is the competitive landscape? And oftentimes that's a threat, because that could lead to potential competitors, but also it's an opportunity for you to consider who may be a sub-licensee of your patent. Okay? And I strongly recommend that you file a provisional patent before you go speak to a potential partner for collaboration. And I've seen a number of instances where if you don't do that, companies may want to try and go around your IP and develop something or reverse engineer what you have. So certainly in advanced wound care, it's really critical that you have a very strong base provisional patent before you start filing inventions disclosures. And in the next one of the next series, we'll talk about both non-disclosure agreements and invention disclosures, and what to look for and what to look out for. Okay? So as I say, it's not each one of these aspects is really important to having a patent that has tremendous value. And you can see this is just showing you with this kind of spider web map that oftentimes you have a patent that's very novel, has great commercial potential, but it doesn't have a great freedom to operate, or in other words, a very weak inventive step. And the IP longevity sometimes is low if the patent's been around for a while. But usually new provisionals have strong IP longevity, but it's really critical that you get the novelty and the inventive step down before you write the patent and make sure that you really have a competitive advantage. And that will provide value for potential licensing opportunities in the future. Well, it's a real pleasure to introduce you to IP portfolio management through the Wound Healing Society's Series 101 project. And we look forward to providing new innovations around clinical trial design next month. And in the future, we're also going to cover grant writing as well. Take care and thanks.